Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Berry Connected, our new podcast forum where we're being joined with Rob and Kim. I love that move, Rob. Back and forth.
A little shuffle. We're moving and doing macros today.
Yeah, our topic today is movement and macros to meet your goals after bariatric surgery. And these two, they're just a ball of energy, I just got to say. I've never met Kim in person, hopefully soon, but Rob, I've gotten to meet him a couple times. And I'm just excited because we're going to be talking about merging sports nutrition and bariatric nutrition guidelines and understanding macros, which is something people always have questions about. Meeting your goals, using macros after bariatric surgery and combining these with muscle and just being active, that physical activity. So we're going to highlight Rob's muscle building phase and how he worked with Kim and how they work together to adjust his nutrition and meet his fitness. So in that was kind of like a little brief introduction. Instead of reading you guys' bios, I would absolutely love if one of you take the lead and kind of start the conversation and maybe just tell us a little bit about yourselves and your relationship and how this kind of all got started.
All right. So I guess I want to start first because you're not really on Zoom unless you tell everyone you're sharing your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and Kim is going to give a little bit of her bio while we do that. So
yeah. All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Kim Tirapelle. I'm a bariatric sports dietitian, and let's see, I've been doing this for about 16 years, but in the last about year and a half, I have my own business, Active Bariatric Nutrition, and I work one-on-one with bariatric individuals who have fitness goals and want to optimize their nutrition. So Rob and I have met in that process and have had the great opportunity to work together and get to know each other. So I'm looking forward to, going through that whole process today.
Yeah, everyone. Hey, I'm Rob. I am 3 years post-op. I had bariatric surgery, vertical sleeve gastrectomy. It's only taken me 3 years to say that properly, but I had it on the Monday after Father's Day. I have been coaching now for about 6 months, so I am like a fetus in this world. But I have started my own online bariatric coaching program after seeing so many people that have struggled in this community with getting their fitness and their nutrition correct, myself included. I think like everyone, we kind of see everything on the internet and realize how much wrong that there is. So when I finally saw Kim's post, I realized this is the beacon of light I've been looking for. And in true fashion, I slid into her DMs and pretty much begged her to work with me. And ever since, it's been an amazing journey that I hope we get to learn and share a little bit about today. So with that in mind, we will get started and kind of just go over our goals for the day. I know a lot of us, you're sitting on a Zoom, which is always the best thing to do, but we want to talk about our mental gains and how we mentally want to get ourselves together. Kim's going to be sharing a lot about her sports nutrition considerations and how to merge bariatrics and sports nutrition. And then, Kim, I guess I should let you say all this.
Yeah. No. And then we're going to talk a little bit about understanding macros. So carbohydrates, proteins, fats, where they come from, how they serve you, how they'll help you to meet your goals after bariatric surgery, especially if you have activity and fitness goals. So we'll talk a little bit about how we utilize, working specifically with set macros. So setting calories, carb, protein, fat goals with Rob, and how we paired that with his lifting regimen to gain muscle mass.
And I'm going to close this out with just talking about habits and mindset. I think one of the most underrated parts of this journey, as someone who used to spend $750 a month on fast casual, is how do you go from crushing 2 Whoppers a day to 2 workouts a day? And that takes a lot of work, not just physically, but mentally. So hopefully we give a little bit, we share a little bit. We're going to laugh, cry, and hopefully be done in an hour.
Rob, what is $750 and what? What did you say?
$750 a month in fast casual. And that's not even like taking my family out to dinner. That's like going and getting like Taco Bell breakfast and then like Dunkin' Donuts because I didn't like the coffee at Taco Bell, and having a coffee roll because, well, if I'm at Dunkin' Donuts, I should get a coffee roll, and then eating pizza in between like lunch and dinner. So when people ask me, how did I lose like my first 50 pounds? They all think it's going to be something revelatory, what got me from 365 to 315. And it really was just going from 4 slices of pizza in between lunch and dinner to 2 slices of pizza. So just shows it's not where you start, but how you finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So before we start, I hope everyone can kind of just take a moment and just think to yourself, what was your greatest athletic achievement prior to bariatric surgery? What was it? When was it? How did you accomplish it? And how did it make you feel? I think so many times for us, and a little bit about my story is I played football in high school, rugby in college, and I was active. I did enjoy a love of movement. And then as being an adult does, a small part of my soul died. And as a job came in and life and kids and everything else, fitness and nutrition just slowly got pushed to the side because there were bigger priorities. But it was one of those things that as I got my chance through bariatric surgery to start my life over, I wanted to commit myself to living the best life possible and getting it. So for me, one of the greatest athletic achievements prior to bariatric surgery was just being able to run around and be an active parent. It was about 10 years ago when my daughter Allie was born and being able to do everything with her. And one of the ways I accomplished that was just by getting up and making sure I made movement a priority. And it was one of the most rewarding parts of it. After bariatric surgery, it just really became important to me that I got back to that person so I could show up for my wife and my kids and be the best person possible. So when you're doing considerations for nutrition and fitness after bariatric surgery, this is kind of where Kim comes in.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the factors that, you have to consider when you're setting your goals and kind of, setting a game plan for how you're going to move forward. Obviously, the type of procedure you had, is it more malabsorptive procedure or is it more just restrictive? Meaning, are you going to really need to be focusing specifically on more vitamin and mineral issues? Because of course, with the more malabsorptive procedures, that becomes even more critical. And so that can impact how you feel if you're not taking your vitamins and minerals every single day. It can impact how you're absorbing, carbohydrates and digesting those. And that impacts, how you're going to fuel for when you're moving. How far out? So when did you have your surgery? I know Rob and I have talked about this, sometimes we, as soon as you have your surgery, you're like, okay, what can I start doing? And walking and those types of things, basics are great to start with. That is where you should start, but building up as you move out based on how much you can tolerate, what you can fuel with, is going to help to determine what type of activities you're going to be able to do. So how far out it was since you've had your surgery, the type of activity. So what type are you wanting to do? More endurance training? Maybe you're going to start, maybe a couch to 5K and you want to build up eventually to a half marathon or something like that, or a cycling event. Or maybe you're wanting to just gain muscle mass. So the type of activity is going to determine a little bit about what you'll be doing for obviously your fueling and your activity. The duration, are you going to be starting off with just 30 minutes or less? Are we going to be building up to an hour or more? Because really at that hour mark, and we'll talk about this later, that's kind of a breaking point as to fueling strategies, what you'll need. And then intensity levels. So are the workouts, are we going to start at a little bit of lower level intensity and then build that up? Because again, that will help with determining what we'll need and how much to fuel with for that activity.
I think a lot of that too also comes down to what sort of person are you? When you're going through, you really have to get clear with goals. One of the best things that Kim really helped me do wasn't just master my macros, but was really get intentional of what is my end goal? What does my life want to look like? How do I want to move my body? How do I want to fuel for that? And how to get to that? And it's something that I kind of did because I think like everyone after bariatric surgery, you want to be the best bariatric patient. You want to have the best success. But at the same time, if you're following everything that the internet tells you, one day it's you need to like run up hills and do wind sprints. The next day you have to like swim the English Channel. And then on the third day, you have to like bench press a car over the back of your head. And a lot of the times when we're trying to do all these goals, you realize that you're not really built for any of them because you're almost moving from one angle to the other as opposed to linearly going and finding your success. The other part of it is every bariatric is different. It's one of those things that just because my macros work at this height and size does not mean that it's going to work for another person. And it's one of those things that I think Kim has really done a beautiful job of is showing that it is an art and a science. And although you can get a macro calculator online to give everything, the idea is you really have to understand the person and the journey in order to get that. The other outside factors are, let's be honest, so many of us, we have jobs, we have families, we have things that are important to us, and that has to play in control. So many times people want to say, I want to run for a marathon, and you really have to ask yourself, do you have the time to run 2 or 3 hours? Me personally, if you see me running, just know I'm being chased and you need to run the same direction as me. But I am capable of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting a 45-minute lift in 4 days a week. So when you're looking towards everything and you're looking to find success, you really have to almost have a moment to yourself and really commit to, what do you want your life to be? Almost every statistic in it shows that you have more than a double-digit chance of regain up until your 7-year mark. If you can maintain your weight for 7 years, you go down to less than a 10% chance that you will regain all the weight back. So one thing that I think is really important as you start your journey is really have some moments to journal and reflect with yourself of, where do you want to be in the next 7 years?
I love that, what you just said, Rob, because I think a lot of times people who are early out, they see so much success, usually those first 6 months to year after bariatric surgery. And then, when you're not still seeing the pounds come off, staying motivated and having some dedication and really kind of sticking to those habits that you really learned that first year, that's where it's at. So I love that you said that.
And I love that, Brendan, because I think for so many of us, it's easy to post on Instagram in that first year in the honeymoon, because there were some bad habits I just picked up. I was able to crush like a Whopper 3 months after post-surgery and still lose 5 pounds by the end of the week. And if you don't build the healthy habits and procedures, you're eventually going to get to a weight that you don't lose anymore. And I always say the toughest part of maintenance is, this is where we really determine our success, because people just stop clapping. I ran out of relatives that I could go visit who noticed that I had lost weight. I pretty much went through my friends in Rolodex of everyone who had seen me lose weight. Now everyone just understands me as, this is about what I look like and this is my new normal. And a lot of that becomes, now you have to almost defend a title belt, where you've taken this weight off. How are you building a lifestyle that's going to sustain you, but also keep you at this point? And that's probably the toughest part nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, it's so true. And so I want to just dive in a little bit. I want to talk today just to kind of highlight the differences, because I know when Rob and I were starting to work together, of course, when we talk about, hey, I've got these fitness and activity goals, it's understanding kind of how do we layer sports nutrition guidelines on top of our bariatric nutrition guidelines? Because as a dietitian, and I work, with clients that obviously have had surgery, you can't just say, oh, I want to run a marathon. You need to just up your carbs and up your calories and all these things. You can't do that as a bariatric athlete. So I wanted to just highlight these differences just to kind of draw attention of what are kind of the main differences between sports nutrition guidelines versus bariatric nutrition guidelines. So as you are well aware, of course, bariatric nutrition guidelines are going to focus on higher protein, low carbohydrate, whereas a traditional sports nutrition diet is going to focus more on carbohydrates. So that's one area where when I'm working with clients, and I know with Rob, we talked a lot about how can we incorporate carbohydrates to round out our intake, but still make you feel good, still provide you with, fiber, vitamins, minerals. So obviously whole grains, things like that, but still stay within sort of that bariatric nutrition plan, which is focusing on our protein food first. It can be done, but we have to kind of figure out how it works best for you. Of course, bariatric nutrition guidelines talk about lower calories, whereas for someone that's going to become more active may over time require an increase in overall calories. And that can be scary. Certainly it can be scary. Of course, after bariatric surgery, we're going to be eating a smaller volume of food at our meals, at our snacks, whereas for someone that's becoming more active may need more. And again, it's finding out how much you can tolerate at each meal and snack and building on that as we move forward. And then lastly, same thing with fluids. Oftentimes we focus just on the food intake, when we're thinking about fueling our body, but fluids play such a critical role in keeping our body cool, staying hydrated so that our muscles can, continue to contract and move our body. And so what happens is that getting our fluids in, especially when we're separating our food and drink, it becomes a challenge. And so for someone that's sweating more and that is, doing more activity, your fluid requirements will go up as well. And that can be a challenge. So I wanted to highlight these two areas because again, we want to find out how do we merge these two areas to fuel you so that you can reach whatever fitness goals you have.
And looking at everything, I think it's so common, Kim, that when people get out of bariatric surgery, the first question I get is always like, hey, I'm 2 weeks post-op. How can I start deadlifting 300 pounds? And the answer is like immediately no.
Yes.
And one of the reasons for that is I think it really comes down to dehydration. One of the dumbest things that I did early on was I think I was 3 days. I was like 3 days after surgery and I decided I was going to walk. Now, remember, I got sleeved the Monday after Father's Day. So it's like a nice hot July 1st day. And I go for like a 15,000 step walk because I'm going to hit my step goal the first day. Right. I dehydrated myself so poorly that I couldn't get water back in when I got to the house and then almost had to go to the hospital. So I think it's one of those things that, you know, depending on how much you sweat, how much fluid intake you get, it's probably one of the most underrated things of having a proper pace and a goal and a vision of building the lifestyle that you want is going to get you the results that are going to last you long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add to that, too, is, you know, you see a lot online about like, this is how much you need to aim for. You know, right after the surgery, you're not going to be able to meet a lot of the things that you see online. And so finding where you are, finding your baseline and building up on that over time is really what's key as well to, you know, being successful.
Yeah. Like I'm about 1,100 days out of my bariatric surgery. So my 11,000th day, you know, or 1100th day should be a lot different than your 7th. So it's one of those things I think a lot of the time. So when we see Instagram, we see all of this and we play this comparison game that can play this major struggle in hitting everything that we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of where we talk a little bit about how do we marry or, you know, combine, layer the bariatric nutrition guidelines with being a more active, you know, fit, you know, into fitness, lifting, whatever it might be, whatever active means for you. You know, I get a lot of times too, you know, what is a bariatric athlete? You know what? Anyone that is moving their body purposely, I consider a bariatric athlete because you have goals, you're striding towards something, you're, you know, increasing movement, which then changes overall nutritional goals. So I like to just kind of say that. But there's a lot of trial and error. And so when I work with clients and, you know, Rob, just like anyone else that's out there, every one of your goals is you're going to be all different from each other. Right. And as Rob just said, you can't compare, especially someone that's farther out, but you can't really compare to anyone else because your individual unique needs and goals are going to be unique to you. So I talk a little bit about when I'm working with folks, building our bariatric base, and then kind of layering on these sports nutrition guidelines. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but still focusing on our protein. Protein is still very important for muscle gain, muscle recovery, balancing out our plates, still incorporating more whole grains, fruits, vegetables, still separating our food and drink. Just because you know, are going to become more active doesn't mean we can just put away all those guidelines that are required after having bariatric surgery. You still have to practice those things. And then just bariatric behavior goals, you know, so separating food and drink, we're chewing our food well, we're eating slowly, you know, we're measuring portions, we're being mindful of what we're putting in at each meal and snack. Those are still things that are going to be critical to your success long-term. And so we'll talk a little bit more in detail about these 3 goals that I have here at the bottom, but adding 15 grams of carbohydrate every meal. When folks come to me, that one of their first questions is how many carbs should I be eating? You know, how do I know how much I should be eating? And usually what I'll advise is, you know, start slowly by figuring out where you're at right now. We start by just adding in 1 serving of carbohydrate, which is 15 grams. And we see how that feels. Maybe we do that at 1 meal. And then we layer that on at other meals to see what is the amount that you need. For fluids, again, this is very general, but 1/2 ounce per pound body weight in hydration, meaning if you're 200 pounds, then trying to strive towards 100 ounces per day is a great goal, especially for someone who's being active. And then we're going to talk more today specifically about pre and post-workout nutrition and how to utilize nutrients to really optimize your workouts so that each day you go into the gym or into your workout, you're feeling well, fueled and ready to go. So I just have this pyramid as more of a visual because I think, and Rob's going to chime in here. I want him to kind of share a little bit about where we started together. But the bariatric sports nutrition pyramid essentially puts in kind of like a hierarchy as to where do we want to focus on first, and then how do we move up? What's then more important, you know, after that? So prioritize establishing your bariatric nutrition basics first. So all those things I just talked about, we're still getting our protein in first, right? We're still separating our food and drink. We're doing those behavior goals. That's critical, guys. We can't jump to the top and just go to supplements. How can I, what can I buy out there that's going to solve all my issues? There is no silver bullet. Okay. So biggest thing that I always work on with folks is we have to make sure the bariatric nutrition basics are established before we can even move on to the next layer. Okay. And Rob, tell us a little bit about, when we started working together, give us an idea of what your pyramid looked like.
So it's the exact opposite of what you're looking at right here. So I think so much. And I think one of the things that I'm always proudest of is I really did absorb everything I saw on the internet. And the internet will tell you it's all supplements. It's all supplements all the time. And it's, if you don't take every single supplement, you're going to go. So I literally, my transfer addiction went from $750 a month in fast food to about $350 a month in supplements. And when we look at supplements, you notice it's like the top of the pyramid. And I think that was probably my biggest mistake, because we see these things marketed to us as this is the silver bullet that's going to get on the end. And it really can be a cherry on top. But the problem is, if you have a really bad sundae underneath, it's going to be a real bad taste in your mouth when you're done everything. So many times I would be eating highly processed fast food still when I started working with Kim, and then being like, well, I'm taking a fat burner, so that should neutral out everything. And From working with Kim, you realize that at the end of the day, like the secret is usually vegetables, fruits, foods that you can find naturally in life, and just building a plate that works for your success.
Yeah. And being able to do it consistently, as you can see here, the layers, the calories and macros being second layer, then optimizing that timing, and the supplements being last. Because again, guys, if we can't establish just day-to-day consistent habits, whether that be movement, whether that be just getting in our protein, meeting our fluid goals, taking our bariatric vitamins and minerals, there is no point in going up to the next layer or skipping anywhere up to the top if we can't get those things first. So biggest thing I really try to hone in on with folks, on all my accounts, is we got to get these basics established first, and then we can layer on based on what you need in terms of your goals.
I'd love to know too, like Rob, whenever Kim first started working with you, you said your pyramid looked different. I'd love to know, like, maybe just a couple small things that really changed you, like by
oh my goodness,
Kim, like diet wise, nutrition wise.
It's funny because you think you know everything, and you don't realize what you don't know until you don't know it. I think, like so many of us in the bariatric community, we have this weird aversion to carbs because the internet pretty much tells us they're the devil, and that if you eat one, you're going to ruin everything. And when you look at my initial work, even Brenda, when you saw me at the Bariatric Award Show, that was probably at my lowest, leanest weight. I was about 210, 212, but I almost looked like gaunt in my face. I was spindly. I didn't have the full physique that I really wanted. And from simple things like incorporating carbs and putting them within my meals, I was able to put on muscle. You seeing me in New Orleans, you could definitely tell that I had put on muscle, and my physique is different. It's funny. My shoulders are arched back more when I walk. I'm more confident. It's the small things of knowing that I can eat properly and in the right portions and have a little bit of everything while still crushing goals really did wonders for me. So many times I think I went back to diet culture after bariatric surgery. The idea that I had to live in this 1,600 calorie a day cod for lunch every day, a can of Diet Air if I really earned it, and this horrible diet that nobody and their mother would want to live on. And I was forcing myself to do that. From working with Kim, it was understanding that we could absolutely do more and push more, and that if you actually fueled yourself, you can make amazing results. I think the scariest, craziest thing that happened was Kim increased my macros from the first time that we worked, and I lost weight. And then we upped the calories again, and I lost weight again. And it was this goofy, like, what is this wizardry that you were doing? And it's math, people. It's math. This is why my weight is history, not math. But through working with Kim and understanding a better understanding of you have to balance everything gets you the results that you really want. And I think one of the proudest points for me as a bariatric patient is at the peak of our bulking phase, I was crushing 4 workouts a week. I was PRing like every other day, and I was up to 3,600 calories, essentially the same diet that Chris Bunn said, the 3-time Mr. Olympia. right now is eating. I pretty much had close to Mr. Olympia's diet down, and I was crushing my food and crushing my workouts and getting the results that I wanted.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too, that I think, and we're going to talk about these in these future slides, but the biggest thing that I saw Rob really do was consistency. It was consistency. He didn't, he's tired. He's still getting up at 5 o'clock. He's still going to the gym, because the component that matches and pairs up with this nutrition part is he was consistent with his lifting routine, and that he's going to talk more about. But, the combination of the two and being consistent with both is, I think, what really also contributed to his success and his mindset. And I know, again, Rob is he's so great about sharing wins when days don't go well, because guess what? There's never a day that's going to be perfect, right? Even though we had these calorie and set macro goals, and Rob and I always talk about this, he didn't hit them every single day, but he was within ranges, right? And that's great. And that's all you have to do is be mindful, be consistent. So, would you agree, Rob? I think that was the biggest thing too, with a lot of that success in reaching your bulking phase.
I think even when we start the cut, it really comes down to the same thing is, your results are going to be driven a lot by your macros, but it's also going to be your consistency. And even now, I'm sure I'll be the first to tell you, I'm struggling on my cut because I'm still getting into the summertime where it's like, oh, I went from working about 60 hours a week to 30 hours a week. And that means I'm finding time to live life. Bourbon has re-entered the group chat. There's cake at birthday parties, there's barbecues. And I think part of that is you're not going to get the same results if you're waving through this whole thing. For those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, I'm doing a waving arm thing because I'm Italian, and this is the longest I've gone without moving my arms in a conversation. But the more you consistently punch your numbers, the better you're going to get your results. And so many times it really does come down to that consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk just briefly about the macros that Rob and I, focused on, but also just to kind of reiterate the importance of each of these and how they play in a very critical role in your overall diet for life after bariatric surgery, and how they help with fueling you for movement. So of course, protein being king macro, we talk about that. I know all of you are very well aware of protein probably and what sources of protein there are in the diet. But just to recap in case, remember that protein is really important for building and repairing muscle tissue. So again, this is why, when folks come right out after surgery and you're in that very lowest calorie, intake, that environment that's low calorie, really you're hoping to get to that 60 to 80 grams of protein a day. It's difficult to really put on muscle mass and build muscle in those early phases because you're not able to tolerate that much protein. We're just trying to get the basics met, right? So, keep that in mind when you're coming out of surgery and you have your set goals. We have to give our body a chance to build up to that intake that's going to help you to reach those muscle building goals. So again, inadequate protein can lead to a loss of muscle mass, or illness, and injury. It will make you feel full longer. That's the benefit of why we focus always on a protein food first, because when we eat with that first paired with fibrous foods, that takes longer to digest and empty through. And so it makes you feel full longer. That's why it's a key strategy when folks are having weight regain, or if you're still trying to lose more weight, we always continue to focus on our protein food first. So again, as you are all well aware, sources of protein in the diet: meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy, beans and legumes, soy-based products. And there is some protein in nuts and seeds. I always see people talking all about how they're incorporating nut butters and nuts and seeds, but really that's actually a heart-healthy fat. There is some protein in nuts and seeds, but they're actually more rich in fat than they are in protein. Now, if your goals are to gain muscle, you will likely need to increase your protein over time from that daily 60 to 80 gram that you're given, right out of surgery. You're going to need to increase that. And again, you have to be at a place where you can. And if you can't tolerate more than that, that's okay. That's the phase that you're in right now. And we will build upon that as you get farther out from the surgery. So work with where you're at. And then as you get farther out and you're able to tolerate more, certainly you will be able to increase protein over time. And then just as a recap, protein does provide about 35 to 75 calories per 1 ounce and 7 grams of protein per serving. So when we're talking about, hey, how much, protein's in this 3 ounce piece of chicken that looks like a deck of cards, you're getting about 21 grams of protein. So again, if we're doing about 3 ounces at each meal 3 times a day, that's how you get to that base of 60 grams. Okay, so next macro, just to briefly talk about carbohydrates, the one that kind of takes the bad rap, in the bariatric community. But remember that for someone that's wanting to be more active, carbohydrates play a very critical role in fueling your muscles as an energy source. So when we exercise at moderate to high intensity levels, carbohydrate is the main energy source that's fueling your muscles so that you can continue to move. Carbohydrates are used to prevent fatigue, decrease illness, recovery. So they all play a role. And in fact, research has shown time and time again that people that are on a very low carbohydrate diet do tend to have more illness and more injuries when they are active. So
Kim,
as
touch in on that too.
Yeah.
People on a low carbohydrate diet are also miserable.
Yeah, true.
and by people, I mean me. Like literally me.
Yeah.
I am the most miserable low carb. And granted, I know there's some people who might be able to crush it in keto. The worst thing I did was drop myself to 1600 and almost eliminate all carbs. And it was no surprise that like my kids would like walk by me and it would just trigger pure rage.
And they're like, what's wrong with you? I know. I mean, and we'll get, we're not going to get into this in detail today, but
it's more for my therapist. I agree.
No, I mean like keto, what I was going to say is like keto diet and kind of the debate out there about that low carbohydrate diet. And, there's been lots of research that has looked at that more as a strategy because, they're thinking our body does store more fat as an energy source. And so by keeping carbohydrates low, we can tap more into our fat stores as an energy source. And what they have found time and time again in research is that for people that are active, your body needs carbohydrate. And so overall, what happens is eventually you just slow down sooner because you don't have that energy source to draw upon. And especially at moderate to high intensity levels, your body cannot use fat. So we really do focus mostly on carbohydrates at that point. So eating carbs is important. Don't be afraid of it, especially if you're wanting to increase activity level. Vegetables, whole grains, fruits, beans, dairy, those are all can fit into a bariatric lifestyle and they're healthy for you. They're providing you a variety of nutrients and fiber. And so we don't want to be afraid of carbs. And then lastly, we'll talk. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say one question for you here, and maybe you've already answered this and I missed it, but like, what are you recommending for someone under carbs for a day? Did I miss that? Like,
no, So there is no set guideline because every person's going to be different. So again, what I typically do is it's going to be very dependent upon where you are from your surgery, what you tolerate and how much can you take in right now? What is your activity level? So I wish I could just say that there was a set number that I could give out to every single person out there that would be, appropriate, but it's so highly individualized. And I don't want to give out a standard number that, someone tries and then says, boy, that's too much for me, or that's too little for me. So typically, again, like I usually do is we start off with where you're at, and then we make changes up or down based on how you're feeling and what your goals are.
So to kind of share like the problem with when you get like standard issue is I came from a really great medical program. Like Penn Medicine was absolutely phenomenal, but in their bariatric binder, it says hit at least 100 grams of protein a day. When you look throughout the bariatric community, the standard number that they tell you with protein is like hit 100 grams of protein a day. And the problem is like that 100 grams of protein, Brenda, has to be the same for you as it is for me. And I think since we've stood next to each other, it's a lot different. And I'm sure if everyone put in the chat where theirs was, we would get like 50 to 60 different answers. To give you an idea, like me thinking I was crushing it at 100 grams of protein a day, Kim got me up to double. And I think at one point we were at almost triple that number at the highest of the bulk. So It's one of those of like shameless plug for coaches everywhere. You want to work with someone who actually knows how to tailor to the restriction that you have in your pouch, but also what you're doing and what you're fueling to get the most success out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like when you're talking about those numbers and stuff and you're not giving like specifics, do you give like ranges like of macros, like certain ranges, like percentage wise? I'm just curious.
So when I work with clients, I do give specific numbers. It's individualized to them. So we will set very specific targets for calories, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So, and we'll show you here what Rob's was in the next couple slides here, but absolutely. So but again, when we're talking in something like this and we talk about, how many carbs should everyone eat? If I say, well, everyone should be getting 130 grams of carbohydrate per day because that's the RDA for carbs. Well, some folks, that's going to not be nearly enough for the amount of activity they're doing. And for some folks that are earlier out after surgery, 130 grams of carbs might be way too much for them. And so again, it's going to be highly individualized for each person as to what they're doing for activity, as well as what their goals are and what they can tolerate. And so I'll just talk here about fats real quick for the last macro, just to talk about, again, fats, I think, kind of take a bad rap too to carbohydrates. We focus just on protein and everything else just goes by the wayside. But fat is a really important energy source because it does provide us an energy source for activity at low to moderate intensity levels. Guys, remember when you're especially for the more malabsorptive procedures too, the fat soluble vitamins really are at risk for deficiency. If you are not taking in fat in the diet, you cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. So fat does play a very important role in making sure we can absorb nutrients that our body needs, like A, D, E, and K. It provides us fatty acids. So you guys have all heard of omega-3s. They play an important role in anti-inflammatory. They're being looked at with depression. And our bodies can't make those. And so you have to get that in from the diet. So think about like salmon. So your fatty fish, salmon, tuna. If you like seaweed, even that's where basically those fish get it from. Omega-3s are very important. And so that is a fat also. When we eat fat as part of our balanced plate, it increases our feeling of fullness so that we can go longer without kind of wanting, something to eat again. And then fat, and I have a typo here, but fat provides about 45 calories and 5 grams of fat per serving. And then some sources here: avocado, nuts, oils, butter, dairy, and I should say seeds as well.
Avert your eyes,
Rob
people.
take over.
This is where we go from everything. So you can see, I still don't know how to smile or look in a picture. For someone who has like close to 2,000 pictures on Instagram, I still suck at this. To give you an idea, that was the first picture. That is at my highest weight. When I realized I had to make a change, I was just so sad in that picture. And it's one of those things that I wanted to make a change. My surgery weight, I dropped 50 pounds. And that really just came from tracking. And so many times when people think of like, what's the magic bullet for weight loss? It really is just making a gradual decrease in calories over time. And it was something as simple as like, yes, I went from 4 slices of pizza in between lunch and dinner to 2 slices of pizza. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Nobody will have me do a speaking engagement where it's like, the key to success is going from 4 to 2 slices of pizza, but it really is something that has its work. As you go down, you see that my lowest weight is at about 210, which that picture is. That is when we went on spring break in Pittsburgh. The DiMedios are poor, people. You need to know that. Where people go to like Hawaii or camping for their spring breaks, the DiMedios literally go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And not even like real Pittsburgh, like backwoods Johnstown, Pittsburgh. If you're from Johnstown, I have to tell you, I had a lovely week, but it snowed on my spring break. So even to get to the outdoor sauna, which we prided ourselves in getting in the Airbnb, I had to move through snow. Since then, you'll see that from my bulk weight, that is at 250 pounds. And there's just less sagginess in me. I feel like I look like an Italian, less hairy or more hairy Superman in the final one, where you can see my pec muscles are firmer. There's less sag. There's not as much hanging over my shorts. And currently right now, I'm down to 245. Newsflash. Losing weight even after bariatric surgery and when you get into the maintenance phase takes time and effort, and you can't just eyeball it and do it. It really takes putting that consistency in. To give you an idea, what I was eating roughly at my lowest weight is my macros were about roughly 1,600 calories a day. I would hit about 144 grams of protein, 180 grams of carbs, and 53 grams of fat. To give you an idea, this is an example, like I'm going to do all the things to get all the results. And it really just didn't work. I was doing 15,000 steps a day. I was lifting 6 days a week. I was doing yoga 6 days a week and doing alternate activities 4 days a week. And that's literally because if you saw like Chris Hemsworth juggling barbells, I would do that. I'm a product of the 90s, which meant I used to watch Rocky on TNT as a child. So I assumed I had to shadow box for 2 hours a day. I was putting myself through these grueling training montages every day and getting nowhere fast. The best thing that I think I'm proudest of is post Kim, I really think I have become a graduate of diet culture. I've learned that protein, carbs, and fats all have a place on my plate. I've also found that with exercise, focusing on intensity and recovery matters. I think I was doing more harm than good lifting 6 days a week. And so many times when clients come to me, they're like, I want a 7-day workout split. And I'll be like, that is absolutely the worst thing to do it. I'm seeing a question. What is Kim? She's the one 2 boxes below me. If you're looking on my view, that's post Kim splits for there. But The main thing that I realized is that your body needs rest and recovery. And so many times less can be more if you do it more efficiently with everything. So that's kind of where I'm at now and what I'm working on as we start doing our cut. But it's not rocket science, people. When I've struggled to cut weight during this part, it's usually because I've gotten inconsistent or I've incorporated some old bad habits. And just like clockwork, when I go back to my bariatric behavior goals, chewing my food, sitting down, being intentional with everything I eat, not just grabbing handfuls, but measuring, the weight comes off. So many times we think like, oh, we need to like do these extreme diets. And the problem is, yeah, they'll work for maybe a week. And then on day 8, you're going to go right back off the rails. Whereas if you slowly do the same thing over time and put the effort in, you're going to get the results that you secretly crave and a lifestyle that you're actually thrilled to death with and enjoy. So to give you an idea for the nutrition and muscle gain, life in bulk was probably one of the happiest points of my life. Telling someone who used to be 365 pounds, we need you to eat more every time you have a biweekly call is like a dream come true. Without glamorizing it, though, eating in bulk is really difficult as a bariatric patient to do it correctly. So many times when you see people eating in bulk, they think, oh, this is the time to pack on the Whoppers or let's go for the never-ending pasta bowl. When in reality, you still have to measure out your food. It's probably the toughest part is not only do you have to eat cleanly to gain muscle, but you have to eat consistently over time. My meal prep was a colossal pain in the rear. And I don't say that to discourage anyone, but you have to put full effort. I would literally have to meal prep on Sundays, Wednesdays, and then Friday just to make sure that I had enough containers and food to go with. You still have to track your food when you're in a bulk. And one of the proudest things from working with Kim is I had about an 18% body fat when I started working with Kim, and we were able to maintain only to a 20% body fat while putting on 25 pounds, which is absolutely insane. The other part with fitness is learning to give my body intentional rest. It was comically disappointing for me. The fact that I started to work out less and my body looked better. And there's a part of you that if you're listening to this and you're doing the 6-day-a-week cycle, please slide into my DMs and I will help you with that. But you need to understand that your body needs rest and recovery because that's actually where the muscles repair and grow. And then when we get to nutrition, it's so important that you're eating early, often, and intentionally. Just like I stated earlier, so much of my day became I had to have 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, and 2 dinners. But again, it's not going back to the Taco Bell breakfast and the coffee roll for second breakfast. It's I'm having an egg white omelet for my first breakfast, and I'm having protein pancakes for my second breakfast. And then I have to have a proffee in between those just so that I could hit my numbers. So it does take a lot of effort. Just like you put the effort in to lose the weight, if you're looking to build muscle, it does not happen overnight. But if you do the work, you're going to get results. And to give you an idea, this is what a day looked at when I was at 3,600 calories after bariatric surgery. So I would wake up consistently at about 5 o'clock and I would have my pre-workout meal. That could be anywhere. For pre-workout would be my overnight oats. So I would literally wake up, hop on the scale, get my number, register that in so that Kim could see it, and then I'd just start eating. Then because I needed to hydrate throughout my workout, I would have to eat it as quickly as possible, then go to the gym, lift, get my water in, and then have my high protein coffee at 7, overnight oats or protein pancakes again at 9, and then protein waffles and berries again. And then I'd have 2 lunches. 1 o'clock would be about my protein pasta and chicken. And then I would have a 3 o'clock meal of a rotisserie chicken and rice. 5 o'clock would be this. This is the life of bulk that nobody wants to talk about. I would have dinner before I had dinner with my family. I went right back to when my $750 a month habit was in and it was all fast food. I then was doing this and I'm seeing people in shock and horror coming through on the chats. And I totally get it. How did I get fluids in with spacing food and water? It's really simple. So in between each meal, you have to really time this. So it would be that I would wake up and I would eat right away. And then I'd almost set a timer for 30 minutes that would go off. And then I could start drinking through my workout. Then I would crush. And literally, I'm always near, I have upgraded. I have an actual water bottle now. But I'd kill about 24 ounces in between each one of these meals. And then literally ding when the timer went off that I finished drinking for 30 minutes, I'd move on to the next meal. It would literally be something that I'd sit down at 7 o'clock dinner and almost look frustrated with my wife and kids because I'd have to cook this meal and then eat a second dinner and then eat a dessert at 9 o'clock before I went to bed. We did that for what, 3 months, Kim?
Mm-hmm.
Give or take?
About 3 months. And I just want to highlight, I was always so pleasantly surprised that you could get the fluids in. I don't remember if you remember when we first started working together, you were like, I was like, we were going to have to increase your fluids probably at least like 150 ounces or, 120, 150. And you were like, oh, easy. I already do that. And I'm like, wait, what? That's usually like one of the hardest goals for folks is to increase their fluids because they're, trying to strategize with their meal timing, and you nailed it. So I was always impressed with the fluids because again, it plays a critical role, especially when you're eating higher protein. You can have some constipation issues, and that really, has never been an issue for you.
No, just to go back, I have not been constipated in 38 years of my life.
Yeah.
At my highest weight, my lowest weight, I have never had problems with constipation, but it's also to give you an idea, like if you look at the picture that you're looking, I would take down an entire prime rib by myself over the course of the week. I would kill a Costco rotisserie chicken during bulk for the entire week. Like, think about that. I'd have to cook a prime rib, go to the store after I put in the oven, leave it with my wife and kids, go to Costco, bulk shop, get the rotisserie chicken, break that down, and then I'd literally make meal after this to last for 3 to 4 days to hit these numbers. When it came to water, so many of the times when I see people, it's like, oh, I keep struggling with snacking or I'm struggling with eating. And everyone asks what the magic bullet is. And half the time it's like, you're probably dehydrated and you're not listening to the right hunger cue. So even if you're not looking to do a bulk or a cut or anything else, it's really just great advice to space out your day by have your breakfast. If you're, like now during my cut, I've kind of reversed it where I start with water first and then work on to the food. Plus also, like I'm a teacher, I don't have to go to work in the summertime. So I get to sleep in a little bit. I can have my water to begin and then have my breakfast. But then like I don't eat after breakfast until I've had another 24 ounces of water. And it's just a simple habit like that if you build and develop in, you're going to get the results that you want, but it does take time to master that. But so many times I will not pick up a snack or anything until I get this done. Good question. Is there a difference between bulking and just building muscle more slowing over time? Kim, do you want to kind of field that? Because it's like a yes and I'll let you get techie on it.
So I'll just start with saying yes. I mean, there's a difference. Obviously, your goals are going to be different. Rob had a significant, he wanted to put on muscle mass, a significant amount. And for someone that's just, hey, I just want to get stronger. I just want to put on some muscle mass. Absolutely. Your nutrition goals are going to be different. We were more aggressive with Rob's nutrition. And that was something that was his personal goal. And also remember, Rob could tolerate it. Not a lot of folks can tolerate this amount. And so because Rob was able to do it, I'm not saying it wasn't easy, it was work. But it definitely made that part in terms of, hey, this is what I want to reach. We're going to be building up over time. And just so you know too, Rob, and you can chime in on this, we didn't jump from where he was at 1,600 to 3,600. We literally went up in phases and steps. And basically every month we increased based on his trends, how he was feeling, how he was tolerating it, and his body muscle mass, his body composition goals. So yes, there's going to be a significant difference between, your pacing and the amount of nutrition we need to put in.
Yeah. And one of the questions about a diet with rice, this is another reason why working with Kim has been phenomenal. I was very anti-rice. It was one of those things that I thought if I had 1 grain of rice, I was going to go back to 365 pounds. And rice was probably the missing link of so much of my work. It's super easy to cook. It is super cheap and easy to do with everything. So much of it really came down to you have to find your tolerance. So many times I thought I was rice aversion and bread aversion, and it realized oh, why is my carb goal never hit any day? And Kim had to give me some tried and true advice of have you tried eating rice or making a sandwich? So many times, literally, these are the deep questions that Kim would get from me at 10 o'clock at night. I'm I need a carb in the morning. And she would literally text back banana. And I would be protein blend, shake thing. And she's off the tree, ding-a-ling. It's that simple so many times to work with everything. But to give you an idea, like working out in a muscle gain phase, to give you an idea of what my week looks like when I'm bulking, Sunday was always a rest and recovery day, where that was an intentional day of rest that gives me time to really focus on my faith, my family, meal prep, and doing things that were positive and healthy self-care for me. Plus, the NFL plays that day. So it just kind of worked out that they were willing to schedule around my rest day.
He's a big Eagles fan, and they got to go to the Super Bowl. So it was like Rob's year.
Yes, nothing like a consolation prize. I got to watch the Phillies lose the World Series and the Eagles lose the Super Bowl all in the span of like 4 months. Welcome to Philadelphia, people.
Let me tell you something. I'm a Chicago Bears and Cubs fan. So I think for those of you out there that listen that have no teams in any playoff races, you can hear my sad story. Because Rob be like, oh yeah, we just lost again. And I was like, whatever.
Yes. But to give you an idea, like this is just a sample look of it of I go 2 days on, 1 day off. So it's rest and recovery on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday are strength training. Wednesday was active rest day. Thursday was and Friday strength training. And then I'd go a little bit extra on Saturday and get that third day of strength training. During a bulk, one of the nicer things of putting on muscle is you're actually scaling back on the cardio. So if you remember all those crazy workouts and activities I used to do, I got to lean into my happiness. And here's me PRing, that's a 255 deadlift right there. So I can deadlift over my body weight. I know there's people who do more, but like for me, this is a win.
Can I say one thing too quick, Rob?
Yes.
Guys, if in a bulking phase too, I remember when Rob and I had the conversation, he was still doing a lot of cardio. And I was like, hey, if we're going to go into a bulking phase, you need to be in a caloric surplus, meaning you have to be eating more than you're burning. And I know Rob can talk about this, which was he had to back down, as he just said. He had to eliminate some of the things that he was doing because it was counterproductive to his lifting regimen. And so he got more focused in and dialed in on his lifting regimen. And he'll talk more about what he did to change that to really help with, gaining muscle. But backing off of cardio, if you're really trying to bulk, that's a key piece to it too.
The two greatest things Kim ever told me and the two happiest days of my bariatric journey was do less cardio, eat more rice. I said, say less. She's like, you can also work in pasta if you want. I'm like, done and sold. Like literally came up from this basement you see me recording from, skipping happy. I'm like, guess what I get to have? But to talk about it, like the keys to success in a muscle building phase, because I know we're close on time and we want to answer all these great questions. So yeah. I'm going to fly with this. With time, you got to get intentional with your calendar. For me, it really is like making sure that I have everything done and that the calendar is ready and that you have everything set and ready to go. The other part that's really important is to remember that muscle is built in the kitchen. So many times when I work with clients, the big question that they always have is, like, hey, I want to crush more workouts. And I'm like, it comes down to a lot more of how do you focus your nutrition to really get the results you want. From a money standpoint, like clothes. Your clothes are going to go up a little bit in size when you put on muscle. You have to be comfortable with changing your clothes or your sizes as you put on muscle and develop. And a lot of the times I think I look leaner now in my clothes, but I'm actually a size up where I'm really rocking closer to an extra large than a large these days, but I fill out the shirt better. With supplements, I hate to say it, like, yes, I went down from a 350 a month supplement habit, but really it comes to having creatine right now. And one of the big moves that we did is I grew out of my basement gym. Like dumbbells will get you so far, but if you really do want to build muscle, I do recommend a gym membership, and that can just be Planet Fitness. It really is just something with that. With your mindset too, you have to be in the right mindset for everything. Of getting intentional with your weight takes just as much effort as intentionally taking the weight off. So making sure that you're in the right frame of mind for everything and getting everything, and really making sure with your macros that every calorie counts. I think if I had a nickel for everyone told me like, yeah, I'm doing a bulk phase, and it's like, oh, you're going back to like the Wendy's triple cheeseburgers. And then you realize like, if you do bulking wrong, you just put on fat without muscle. And then when you go to shed it off, you realize there's not that much to go with. I'm going to fly through this just because I know we have time and I want to answer all these questions, because if you've listened to me and Kim talk for this long, there probably should be some sort of reward. So email Brenda, see what she'll give you. I'm going to put her on the spot, but the 7 habits of highly effective bariatric athletes for me. Oh, it's okay. ProCare is sponsoring all this. I'm sure there's like at least a beer koozie we can give them. So Anyway, the 7 habits of a highly effective bariatric athlete. I think when we look at good bariatric athletes, they're very intentional with their time, their macros, and their fitness. You can't just really go in without having a plan for all 3 of those to have success. They have a plan for when they go into their kitchen, their training grounds, or their social life. That means that, you know, as you're navigating life, you have to make sure that like what you're cooking is healthy and fits your macros. What you do with your training actually fits your work, and your social life really has to be that you're being intentional with everything. And the final part that we don't talk enough about is it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. When you hit a bump, you have to show resilience. And a lot of the times, like if you throw up your hands and quit, you're not going to get the results that you want. So at this time, we're going to open it up for Q&A. To give you an idea, here is Kim's information. You can find her. Why don't you say that, Kim? That's kind of your line, and I've been rambling.
No, sure. So guys, if you ever have questions, you want to learn more about services that I have, you can find me on Instagram at Active Bariatric. I also have TikTok and Facebook. You can go to my website, www.activebariatricnutrition.com. And also I'll just say I have a once a week podcast. It's called the Active Bariatric Nutrition Podcast. And so you can, if you haven't listened to that, you can go back and listen to all the episodes I have there. Rob's been a guest also. But happy to answer any questions ever down the road if you ever have any.
And you can find me at My Weight is History on Instagram. I host every other Monday is Men's Support Monday. On the opposite Mondays, it is Maintenance Monday, where I showcase some of the amazing women who are thriving in maintenance. I also have a website, www.busybariatrics.com. And just slide into my DMs. I'm really open for any questions. And if you want to hear me talk more, I will. I always offer a half an hour clarity call with anyone who messages me, just to really help you figure out your goals and intentions and how I can help you thrive after bariatric surgery. Brenda, you want to start firing off questions?
Yes, I would love that. I am going to, before we do that real quickly, I'm going to really quickly, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show them where they can, like, just what you guys said. So I'm going to real quickly just jump on that. And
do you want me to stop sharing? Oh, you can do that.
I don't know. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
I was on a Berry Nation. Anybody on Berry Nation here? Say hi. I want to show Kim's website. Here's Kim's website, Active Bariatric Nutrition. So it's activebariatricnutrition.com. Here on that, you'll see her podcast. So kind of take a look, and it looks like she does interviews. She does all kinds of fun stuff. So check that out. And then we have Rob's website. He has his fun little busy bee. One of my questions is going to be, where did you get your logo? Like, what made you decide to be?
So fun story. I'm a teacher and I'm super cheap. So I literally covered bathroom duty for our art teacher. Yes, the joys of being a high school teacher in this day and age is we actually guard and sign kids into the toilets on our spare time. So I volunteered to take her shift to guard toilets so she could design my logo. So.
Oh. I love that. And then here we have Kim's IG page, her Instagram page. So all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, our little vent right there on top.
There we are.
Yeah. And then we got Rob's here, his page, and all kinds of fun stuff that he shares. I also want to just jump on. We have the Active Bariatric Nutrition YouTube channel. So check that out, along with the ProCare one, which our event will be posted here 1 week after this event. What I would almost recommend too is this event will be on replay on demand by using the same registration link until the end of this month. And then it'll be posted on this YouTube channel by next Tuesday. So check out either one of those. We also are now, like Kim said, she has a podcast, Very Connected, is who we are now rebranding ourselves as. And we also have a podcast, so you can listen if you're more of a listen person while you work out. So those are kind of where I wanted to share before we start in on all the questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's start out. I'm going to kind of jump. There's so many in the comment section. I'm going to actually jump to the Q&A boxes. If you are in, by chance, if you're on this Zoom call on Zoom, itself. If you had a question that you actually posted within the chat feature, if you could go up to the Q&A box and start posting your questions there, that'd be super helpful. Otherwise, I'm going to still go through. And then it looks like I do have some questions off Facebook, which we'll try to be answering. So we'll try to hit as many of these as we can, taking, just these are going to be quick answers, guys. Again, reach out to Kim or Rob if you have more, if you want to go more in depth. So the first question here is, Lisa, when does this movement and macros journey come into play post-op 3 to 6 months?
Do you want me to handle that, Kim?
Yeah, I'll let you answer that, Rob.
So I'll do. So for me, I work with clients even pre-surgery and start on helping them build habits and behaviors and stuff. Movement's critical right after bariatric surgery. So many times it's just as simple as like walking and getting a step goal. One of the best pieces of advice that I give everyone prior to surgery is to get super clear with your surgeon of what is your step count or pitch count right after surgery. And I really ask them to get in writing from their clients of what should their step goal be for the first 2 weeks, 2 months, and then after that. I also make sure that with their surgical provider, they say when they're cleared for body weight, resistance band, dumbbell, and then full body lifting. And really based on what your surgical team gives from there, I can build and customize plans that allow you to start this as soon as possible within the guidelines that your surgical team gives.
And I'll just say real quick, nutrition wise, of course, it's going to be highly independent or dependent on where you are from when you had your surgery, how much you can tolerate. And then it's going to also play a role as to what fitness and activity goals you have. And so obviously early on, if you're within that first 3 to 6 months, you're really just trying to meet the basic nutritional goals of getting your protein in and starting to kind of add more food groups to your plate. But definitely as you move farther out and you are increasing your exercise, that is where nutrition becomes even more critical. And so I typically say at least around 6 months is where you've gotten through that initial phase of, the diet post-op progression and getting to a kind of a more baseline level of intake and even maybe beyond that. And then we can start making changes from there.
Perfect answer. And I'm going to jump back and forth from Facebook to the Zoom webinar. It looks like Nancy asked, any suggestions for us seniors?
I mean, so I'll just say real quick, I'll let Rob talk movement issue or goals. But nutrition wise, it's still across the lifespan, it's still critical that you're focusing on your protein, you're taking your bariatric vitamins and minerals every day for life, and just being consistent with your nutritional intake. But protein has been shown time and time again to be very, very important because as we get older, each decade, we are losing muscle mass if we're not using it. And so protein is really, really, really important for your intake. And as we get older, oftentimes that kind of maybe goes down a little bit in terms of overall intake. So really make sure that you're focusing on your protein as you get older.
From a movement standpoint, one of the proudest things is I have clients that are in their 50s and 60s who have had bariatric surgery, and getting them to start from dumbbell progression to barbell to deadlifting and squatting in a gym just prides myself, and it crushes it. I have a client who she's 68 and she's deadlifting 135 and she's doing it right next to these 20 somethings. And it's like, I have 40 years on you. And it's just really shows that you're really only limited by your imagination and whatever limits you put on yourself. But, working with someone who knows how to progress you to that level, as opposed to going in tomorrow and saying, I'm going to deadlift 250 is probably the best way to go and approach. But it can be done. And it's almost vital that you do so you don't lose your muscle mass as you get older.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to answer Enid's question. Enid said, thank all three of you for your time. The bee is her office theme. So she actually has a little cup. She just sent me a picture of it. And she loves your bee. Rob, and she asked, I
guess you would say it was meant to be.
Oh, but
and that's why they call me Dad Rob, people. I have horrible jokes.
Do we need that little eye swing? Like,
oh, don't worry. I'm a public school teacher. If I don't get an eye roll by the end of me talking, I didn't do my job.
Her question is, I eat a half of an avocado in a Hass avocado. I've not heard of that in the morning and the other half at dinner. Is that bad? Is small Hass avocado not big?
Yeah. No, I would just say real quick on that. No, it is not bad. You're getting in, again, a source of fat into your diet. That's going to help with making you feel more full. It's going to help with fat soluble vitamin absorption. Do not be afraid of it. It's fantastic. If you can tolerate that and you feel good and you're still eating your protein food first, fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I think it really just depends on your macro. Just to piggyback on what Kim said, depending on what your macro goal is, like there's really no good or bad food. It's just really what level of moderation you have and how you're incorporating into your lifestyle. So, yeah.
Okay. Now I'm swinging back to Facebook. There's a question. How do you calculate macros? And I know you kind of talked a little bit about it being very individualized. Is there anything at all that you want to say to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are calculations that we have as dietitians, and they're going to be specific to the type of client that you're working with. So for athletes, there are specific guidelines for carbohydrate ranges. So, for someone that's, exercising at low to moderate activity, it's about 3 to 5 grams per kilogram body weight. However, with a bariatric athlete, oftentimes they can't eat that amount. So what I do is I utilize sports nutrition guidelines and calculations as my base, and then I will reduce that by how much you can tolerate. Because again, it's easy to say, yeah, this is the goal. This is the, guideline. And I would do this with any athlete, even when I worked with my collegiate athletes and beyond. We have to find how much you can tolerate, how we fit that into your diet, what you like and don't like. So how I calculate it is I utilize sports nutrition guidelines, and then we will basically make changes around how much you can tolerate and what your goals are based on.
Okay. I love that answer. Alexandra says, thoughts on vitamin patches versus physical vitamins, especially from a busy body standpoint.
So I'll just answer this real quickly too. I'm not a big fan of vitamin and mineral or patches at all. And I think that research has kind of been more suggestive of taking them in, whether it's through a pill, chew, tablet, powder, that's going to be better absorbed. And so I know in the facility that I worked at the last 10 years, we did not recommend patches. And I know that some folks do have tolerance issues with, chewing and tablets and things like that. Luckily, there are lots of different, formulations that you can look at that can help meet your needs. And we have to find what that is. So I am not a fan of patches. I don't know if Rob, you've had other recommendations, but as a dietitian, I do not recommend patch vitamins.
Kim handles all my supplements. I'm just going to say it. In Kim, I trust. You'll notice I'll talk at length on anything I know even the slightest bit about. The things that I don't try to touch is I leave supplements to Kim. So,
okay. Let's see. Press the answer live button here. Any tips on staying on track while traveling? I have a UK trip coming, and so loads of walking for sure. More concerned on foods.
So for me, I had a really awesome year. I traveled a lot this year with speaking engagements, award shows, some TV stuff. It's been a fun year, which meant I have been a road warrior. My best advice is I'm not the biggest fan of protein bars for an everyday item, but they are pretty much airline safe. So when you're traveling, I do that's the time where I stock up, bring a whole bunch, and that keeps me from eating 2 Cinnabons in the airport just because there's Cinnabon in the airport. It's 1980 still in the airport. But it's tricks with that. My big rule of thumb, and how I've learned to thrive while I'm on vacation or when I go to a different town, if the food is unique to that area, I enjoy it, I savor it, and I love it. So if you're going to the UK and you are having bangers and mash or fish and chips, enjoy the bangers and mash and fish and chips. If you're eating at an Applebee's in London, order the healthiest thing on the menu because there's Applebee's in America as well. So I take the rule of thumb, if it's a unique item, I don't even think twice. And I think Brenda saw me take down a whole plate of gumbo, grits. We ate all these New Orleans themed food and it was still at the tail end of my bulk. So I went ham on that. But the next morning when we're at the breakfast buffet, it's eggs, bacon, and waffles. So it's yes, I was the pain in the rear that made the chef make egg whites, but they were the pains in the rears that charged $35.99 for a breakfast buffet in a hotel. So I'm going to eat $35.99 of egg whites.
And I'll just add into that really quick. Just, wherever you travel, find sources of protein, still focus on that order of eating your protein food first, trying to round it out with vegetables, fruits. And I totally agree with Rob. Enjoy it when you're traveling, have some fun, enjoy those local food and cuisine. But, if it's just typical standard fare and you're just like, hey, I just need to find something, try to find that protein food first, just like you normally would here.
Also, the joys of walking is like, I'm super cheap, so I try not to pay for Uber whenever I can. So I will walk anything under 3 miles as long as like it's not freezing cold. And even then I will find a way to make it work.
I love that. One other thing I want to add too that I found is as far as the water piece, like rehydrating before you leave. And then if you're able to bring a water bottle on, to like like Rob's here, bring that with you because you can fill it up pretty easily. The other thing is don't bring water in it as you go through security, though. I will tell you, my daughter did that with her water bottle, and she had to go back through security. Fortunately enough, we were running early enough. But also the motels, I will say too, a lot of motels, if you go up to the desk, this is a super cheap little tidbit, but you can, a lot of times the front desk will have bottled water that you can actually get free. If not, buy you some bottled water to keep in your room as opposed to having to buy the ones that are weighted that you pick up and you charge $10 for. Another thing is a lot of times too, there are little convenience stores that are located near motels like Targets and places like that. And a lot of times I'll go over and get some to bring back to my room.
Oh, another thing, which is fun, is Instacart. If you're staying for like a longer period of time, Instacart groceries to your room. Like one of the reasons I like staying at Airbnbs is it has the kitchen there, and then I do it. I told Kim, and this is like a depressing fun story, but I flew an airline that is not good. I won't mention their name because Spirit probably wouldn't want me to say it. But when I was flying on them, I did get stuck in Fort Lauderdale for like an additional 2 days. So I could have either eaten at the Applebee's on the $4.99 coupon that they gave me to get. I don't even know what you get at Applebee's for $4.99 Spirit, but like you can't get food. Long story short, I Instacarted a rotisserie chicken and a bagged salad. I opened the container. I took the top part of the dome and I added the lettuce there. Again, this is kind of disgusting, but still better than like eating fast food. And then I just shredded the chicken, threw it in, put some Caesar dressing. It cost like $10. And I ate on that for a day until Spirit actually put me on a flight to get back home in a proper time. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Spirit.
I love that. Okay, I'm switching back to Facebook. Michelle asked, are there any vitamins to steer clear from besides the patches? Please don't say ProCare.
No, I don't. Honest to goodness, the first thing I always just say is, look, what are your surgical center's guidelines? And I know there's lots of great options. I love ProCare. We use ProCare where I worked. Because they have a wide variety of options for you and comes in different formulations, different dosing. And ultimately what I would do is find out what your surgical center is telling you for the dosing for each of the vitamins, B12, vitamin D, calcium citrate, your multivitamin, and find what tastes best for you. What's going to work best for you? Like Rob always talks about with lifestyle and implementing these things. It's easy to say, do these things, but you have to find things that work for you and that you tolerate. And so I don't have anything that I say like stay away from necessarily in terms of like specific vitamins. I mean, I would just go off of your surgical center's guidelines and, make sure that you're using reputable brands.
And I would just to piggyback on that, the importance of like getting your blood work done like every 3 to 6 months or as much as your insurance allows you to do. Certain vitamins might work better than others, or you might be deficient or have a surplus based on what you're taking. And again, like back when I was on the whole, I'm taking every supplement under the sun that's advertised to me. It was amazing. I went for my blood work after one and literally everything was jacked. Like I had 150% of like B6 and B12. And a lot of these supplements might toss in a couple extra things. So you just want to make sure you're good at reading a label or at least getting blood work and then going to your dietitian, getting very specific of what vitamin will do this to fix this. And they'll tell you because you're not the first person to have that.
A lot of times, a lot of supplements can duplicate and really increase the levels that you're getting. Even vitamin protein shakes and things will add vitamins, vitamin waters, things like that. So you do need to be mindful of that and making sure that you're not duplicating multiple times throughout the day different supplements, because that's how your vitamin levels can increase over time. So you have to be careful with that. And I agree, labs absolutely are required annually for life.
And one thing that I want to say too is, honestly, like, a lot of these vitamin companies, including ProCare, will have free supplements that you can try out before you purchase them. Totally. If something doesn't work for you, try something else. Because I will say, like, being a bariatric surgery patient myself, there was times whenever one vitamin worked really well and then I got tired of it. I'm kind of like one of these people that I like to try a lot of different things. I get tired easily of things. And so I'd say make sure if you're having problems with one supplement, try another, because there's something out there to work for you. I'm going to post on here. ProCare does offer free samples. So if that's something that if you've never tried ProCare Health, which is our sponsoring agent for today, check that out. It's on the website, procarenow.com, if you're listening to the replay. But super easy to find. It's at the top of the page. And I will post that on Facebook here shortly. I'm going to it looks like Michelle says, great to know there are free samples. Yeah, we have, I would say a lot of vitamin companies will offer samples. Some of them you have to pay for, but we do offer those for free. So that's kind of cool. Question here. Elizabeth said, why did that? We did that in Atlanta. I used Walmart delivery. I see what the options are for my destination. So that was more of a comment, but it is so true. I just went to somewhere recently. I'm trying to think where the last trip. It was in New Orleans. And I'm trying to think what it was. Maybe WLSFA. I don't remember. Anyways, we ordered to our Airbnb a whole list of groceries for the whole week, because we're going to be there a week. And so nice just to have things that you have right there on hand. Okay, I'm going to kind of go up. I'm going to go through our chat box and see. A lot of these are just comments. Elizabeth said that I'm 5'1", working middle-aged woman who sweats profusely. I'm not a runner, but I do waddle. I will be taking some swim lessons as of arthritis in the knees. So, there's different kinds of physical activity. Find things that you like. I love that. Danielle is asking, is there a way we can save this PowerPoint? So I would say you can access it via the replay, and you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. And as I mentioned, this will be on replay till the end of the month using the registration link. And then I'm going to let Rob answer here. And then also on the YouTube channel. Rob, do you have something to say?
Shameless plug for me. If you sign up for my email list, I will send it to you.
Sign up for Rob's email list. They can find that on your busybariatrics.com.
Yes. Correct? Or if you just DM me on Instagram and I will give it to you.
And it's your your page is My Weight
is History.
Had to remember. Okay. So yes, you can get that whether you listen live to the replay. Okay. Enid says 2 years post-op. I haven't regained. However, I struggle building muscle. How can I improve that? Well, work with Rob for one, but another.
Yeah.
Work with Kim for two.
Yeah. No, I would just say certainly both of our, it's both pieces that are important. So the nutrition is critical, the exercise and the being consistent with a strategic, weightlifting program that is going to, increase over time. And I'll let Rob talk about that. But nutrition wise, we just have to really look at where you're at. And oftentimes I just find that folks are underfueled for their goals. And so we have to look at increasing protein over time, likely calories as well, probably carbohydrates. So it's going to be something where we look at where you're at and we build from there.
Yeah. When we look at building muscle, I think the most important thing to remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So many times you have to keep that 7-year mark in mind of if you really want the results and lifestyle that you want, keep shooting for that 7-year goal as opposed to that 7-week goal. And the problem is a lot of social media will sell you like, oh, get thin in 30 days or, do this program in 90 days and transform your body. And in reality, you're not going to do that. And if I had a merit badge for everyone that I tried before and after weight loss surgery, I could fill a full sash and look like one of those people who wears sashes. Sorry, I ran out of analogies. We're over time. But the main point is you really want to work on a program that gets you consistency. A lot of the times you see on social media these flashy workouts, or even those top fitness trainers, they're going to show you that they're like juggling kettlebells with their teeth. And in reality, they're doing some formation of bench, squat, and deadlift, and then isometric exercises afterwards to complement those compound movements. So if any of those words seem scary to you, just DM me and I'm more than happy to help.
And that kind of like leads into another question. Crystal said, is there a difference between bulking and just building muscle slowly over time?
Yeah, and we talked about that one just briefly, which is really it comes down to the pace and what is your ultimate goal? Are you wanting to do it slow over time because we want to gradually increase overall caloric intake and protein in our macros? What are you able to do for lifting and things like that? So the main difference between kind of just gaining muscle mass over time and bulking is really bulking as a phase where we are being a little bit more aggressive with nutrition. We're taking in, trying to maybe increase that surplus a little bit more rapidly versus someone that's doing this day to day. And over time, you're going to see those muscle gains as long as we're being consistent with the weightlifting as well as the nutrition.
And that kind of leads into too, one thing that Diane asked here. She says, can I work with, I think she's meaning either of you or both of you after my surgery. If possible, how would I get a hold of you? And I think you've answered how to get a hold of you by your websites, by your Instagram pages. But I also want to say, you know what? Maybe it's not even so much about after. Like, do you guys ever work with patients before surgery, going into surgery? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I personally have 3 clients right now who have surgery scheduled and they're starting the process. And a lot of it is building the healthy habits and behaviors that you need to be successful after surgery can start immediately. A lot of the times when I need to lose weight again, I go back to my bariatric behavior goals, and I share those every Sunday on my Instagram page. And it's nothing profound. Like, it's literally sit down and be intentional with every meal. But we can absolutely work on plans. With my 3 clients that I have right now who are getting ready for bariatric surgery, I kind of take them through workouts to help them build muscle and flexibility, more importantly, and working on core exercises so that they have a better building and foundation. And then again, because if you're working with me beforehand, I can help you ask the right questions for your surgical team so that you're kind of ready to hit the ground running from the day you get out of surgery.
Yeah. And my focus, so the clientele that I work with is post-bariatric surgery, because I'm helping folks that have specific fitness goals and they're now wanting to kind of move away from that standard bariatric, kind of the post-diet progression that you've been on, and really optimize the nutrition to meet the new fitness goals that you might have once you've had your surgery. So I do more post-bariatric surgery.
Okay, awesome. I believe that's all the questions. I want to just kind of do a shout out to ProCare for allowing the sponsorship of this for us to all to be together. And we usually do like a little promo, a little product promo each time. I will say that Enid mentioned our omega-3 fish oils and that type of thing. She says, I don't repeat it. I guess she means like she doesn't taste it. And that's one of the things that our omega-3 is known for. Like she says she does with other brands. So that's one of our products. I'm also going to share my screen just for a little second here. Let me exit out. And I'm going to pull up a little picture that I have here of, let's see, there was our sample page that I copied and pasted earlier into our Zoom, and I'm looking for photos here. So I want to say it's National Daiquiri Day. Okay, so National Daiquiri Day, one way to celebrate in a bariatric friendly kind of way, I guess, is to do a cheer with ProCare Health's mocktails. They have 500 milligrams of calcium and 500 IU of vitamin D, and they're in stock right now. You can find those on the ProCare website, which I will go to here and show you guys a couple things here. So when you get to ProCare, under products, this first little tab, calcium supplementation, and they should be one of the first things. So you can pull them up. They're right there. I also want to say, just kind of give you guys a heads up, if you are if you're listening to the podcast instead of just seeing this, it's www.procarenow.com. Under this, you're also going to see some new little things. We just released our Body and Soul campaign, which is partnerships with different programs. You can check that out. We also have under there our Bari Connected, which is our new forum, as I mentioned earlier. Under that, you're going to see all the upcoming events. As you go here, you can scroll through those. And the one that we're doing today, here, Movement and Macros to Meet Your Goals After Bariatric Surgery with Rob and Kim, is listed. And you can click onto that to just access the replay. I mean, literally, if you've already registered, it'll just bring you straight there. We also have another support group this week, which is this. I did not plan this, but this is so amazing because it just fits right in with our topic. It's bariatric macro friendly, high protein meal and snack ideas. I love that because it just fits right into what we're talking about. That's this Thursday at 5 p.m., July 20th, 5 p.m. Central Standard. Again, if you're listening to the replay, you can find that either if it's before the end of July, you can find it here on this website, or you can find it later on our YouTube channel. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Is there any ending notes, Rob and Kim?
I just want to thank you and ProCare for putting up with me for like an hour. So I had a blast for whatever that's worth.
I did as well. Thank you so much for having us both. I really enjoy it. And of course, I always love talking with Rob because he's so much fun. But thank you so much for having me as well today. I appreciate it.
Hey, one last question here. It looks like, Rob, maybe you answered that. Somebody's saying your fashion sense is impeccable. Where did you get that shirt from?
Oh, it's Costco. I'm wearing like a whole grand total of like $18.99 of a Costco polo for like $7.99 and shorts for $4.99. So
Kim was asking it, I guess, or I'm not sure. It says
Me?
Rob to host and panel. I love it. So somehow we got it up there. Anyways, okay. Well, thank you to all of you. I'll be reaching out to Rob and Kim after this program. We want to thank each and every one of you for spending time with us today. You know what? You can't stop talking whenever the information's so good. You got to just keep listening. So if you missed part of this, come back and listen to the replay. Thanks, guys. And everybody have just a very, very connected day. Bye, everybody.